Welcome to STEM in Gaming, brought to you by STEM Lyceums and the Center for Excellence in Education. I'm so excited, you guys, for this session that we're doing. We have two fabulous presenters tonight. So, this was a really good one to jump in on if it's your first time here. So, welcome, and we're going to go ahead and get started. All right, so first, before we get into the fun and games of everything, just want to give you a little heads up about our organization and what we do. So, CEE was founded in 1983 by Joanne DeGennaro and the late Admiral H.G. Rickover, who's the father of nuclear navy and civilian uses of nuclear power. Our mission here at CEE is to nurture high school and university scholars to careers of excellence and leadership in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, or STEM, and to encourage international collaboration between and among leaders in the global community. Here at CEE, we have four flagship programs, the first of which is the Research Science Institute, or RSI. RSI is a highly competitive 6-week summer science and engineering program open to rising high school seniors. Juniors are eligible to apply. RSI is the first cost-free summer science and engineering program that combines on-campus coursework with scientific theory with off-campus work in science and technology research. For those of you that are eligible and interested, the applications for RSI close on December 10th. So if you're interested in applying, you should get working on that because you will need your transcripts, your test scores, and letters of recommendation in order to qualify. Next, we have USA Biolympiad, or USABO. This is the premier U.S. biology education and testing program for high school students. It provides the motivation, curricular resources, and skills training to take them beyond their classroom experience to the level of international competitiveness. Since CEE began administering the USABO in 2003, every member of the USA Biolympiad team has medaled at the IBO. Applications for USABO close on November 8th, so that is coming in fast. If you are interested in participating in USABO and taking the tests, you need to check with your teachers or your school to find out if you're a testing location. If not, then your teacher will need to sign up in order to become a US Biolympiad testing location. Next, we have our two newest programs here at CEE, first of which is the Teacher Enrichment Program, or TEP. TEP provides opportunities for middle and high school teachers to connect with leading experts from industry and academia, explore cutting-edge research and development, and make meaningful professional links with direct benefits for teachers and students. And finally, there's us, STEM Lyceums, a virtual club for high school students to meet once or twice a month to learn about STEM career pathways from leading field experts. Industry professionals share cutting-edge research and offer unique learning experiences like scholarships, internship opportunities for high achievers, and other summer programs that are available to them. So, thank you all for joining us, and thank you for listening to our spiel about our fabulous programs. All right, so now it's my pleasure to introduce our two speakers. First, we have Gordon Bellamy. Gordon is a professor of practice of cinematic arts at USC and the director of cinematic ethics, helping to cultivate the next generations of leaders in our craft. He has played key business and product leadership roles at Tencent, Electronic Arts, as a designer on Madden NFL Football, and MTV Networks. In 2020, Bellamy was honored by Games of Change for their Vanguard Award winner for his contributions to the craft. In 2019, he was awarded the first ever Jerry Lawson Lifetime Achievement Award, and in 2018, he was featured in Nickelodeon's Black History Month. Currently, he's featured in Netflix game documentary High Score, Amazon's It's in the Game docuseries, and The World According to Jeff Goldblum on Disney Plus. Gordon serves as the executive director, CEO of the Gay Gaming Professionals and on the board of directors for Wave, and has served as the executive director of both the Academy of Interactive Arts and Sciences and the International Game Developers Association. He's a graduate of Harvard College with a BA in engineering and resides with his husband Joe Healy and their dog Colby Janet in Los Angeles. Shout
Hey,
out to Gordon.
hello. It's awesome.
Thank you for joining us. We are also joined today by Maciej Kocemba. He's the creator of Opera GX with 18 plus years of browser development experience. Maciej has built products across embedded systems, consoles like Nintendo Wii, my favorite, mobile and desktop. He began coding in primary school and even made a living developing mobile games. So thank you both for joining us. I'm so excited to hear from you all, and I'm sure our attendees are also chomping at the bit to hear. I'm going to go ahead and turn the floor over to Gordon to get us started.
Hey, thank you so much, Rebecca. It is, I can't even tell you my feelings, young people. I'm one of you. So Gosh, as I understand it, you're in junior high and high school. So this program started in 84. I'm actually CEE RSI 1987. So at the very birth of it, um, if you're in junior high, I don't know if math counts is still a thing, but we were the original math counts winners from Virginia, back for more. And I went to math camp like a lot of you, like CTY and TIP and Governor School, all the things and all these competitions and science fairs. And so CEE was, or RSI was this magical moment. So if you've been on this path of going to camp every year, usually it's um, about competition, right? And RSI was unique for those of us who spent our life going to the camps because it really brought us together to collaborate, right? And lift each other up. And so all of us spent that like magical summer working on our science fair projects a little bit early, getting ready for what's it called Westinghouse or Intel, whoever's sponsoring it for the National Science Fair. But more importantly, just being enough as we were, right? And it was like the last sort of magical summer before having to get ready to go to college and where you're going to go to school and all that good stuff. So I just highly recommend if you have a chance to engage with the RSI program or CEE, that it's a little different than the competitive path that many of you may be on. And I just think it's really additive. And I'm just grateful now, a lifetime later, to be a part of this family and with all of you. Um, since then, so as I said in the intro talk, I went to Harvard, um, and I studied engineering, and it was a real point of inflection in my life. So for me, I don't know about y'all. So I was raised, my father's a lawyer, my brother's a lawyer, and I'm actually named after my dad's law school professor, Richard Gordon. That's why I'm Gordon Bellamy. And so there was sort of a pressure implication that, you know what, maybe you ought to be a lawyer. But that's not who I was. Um, who I was someone who always loved games because as unique as I was, games were a place where the rules were the same. Games were a place where I could connect with people uh, anywhere and across the world, across whatever our differences, and the rules would be the same, and we could just spend time together. For me, treating each other well and creating spaces like that. Is something that's always been valuable to me alongside, academic achievement, alongside, honors and awards and all those good things. And so I decided to devote my life to it. And so I don't know if you're gamers in the crowd. Hopefully, maybe you play something. For me at the time, I loved the intersection of sports and games. So I went to a company called EA Sports, or Electronic Arts, to go live my dreams. Um, and I ended up being the lead designer on a game called Madden Football that still goes on to this day. Um, and yeah, just sort of get a chance to be all that I was, not just all that was expected of me. And it's really meaningful to be able to sort of, intersect those things. I think talk about ikigai, right? Which is like what you're good at, what the world needs, what you can be paid for, and really being open to sort of finding that intersection. And that's something that I was able to do. You heard a big long bio about me. Um, what I want to do is I want to play a clip so it can be more like this is more closer to when I was your age. And if I can share screen, or did I already ask? Let's see here. Where is it? Did I already ask?
Not
Well,
yet, so you should be able to see the
share.
green button at the bottom.
Share. Okay, cool. It's a really brief clip. Share. And you'll see it's closed caption in Spanish because I just gave it in a talk in Malaga, Spain. But if you speak Spanish, you can also follow along because closed captioning. Make sure my volume and try to play. This is me. See in the lower left-hand corner? It me. But I'm like closer to your age now. Well, you want to pass like your defensive diagram? Yeah. The fact that I would be helping John Madden make the next generation of games. It was a dream come true.
Okay, now who are you?
I'm on offense.
I don't know, but who are you?
Well, who am I? I'm a person who loves creating sports games. This is who I am. And that is sort of what I'm talking about. That is what I sort of hope for all of you, like on your journey, right? Because there can be so much about um, competition, right? And I'm my first place in this, I win this trophy, yada, yada. But ultimately, it's not only about collaborating with others, but also being your whole self, right? And finding joy in the things that bring you joy and not letting anyone yuck your yum, okay? Whether that be games or pottery or engineering or photography or Pokemon or whatever truly brings you joy, right? That it's important that you embrace that and allow yourself the space to lean into that and to find pride, frankly, in your uniqueness, right? Because sometimes there can be so much pressure to be validated, right? Like how many likes did I get for this photo, or how many likes did I get for this post, or how many followers, and so much pressure. And it's so important to recognize that I like to tell my friends that fabulous begins on the inside, right? And that the things which make you unique and different are also part of what make you special, and that those things are actually additive to the world that we're all sharing. So now, a lifetime later, I'm a professor at USC. And so we have a games program. See if I can stop sharing here. Bunk, which I'll put the site to, where young people like you, if games are what you're passionate about, can pursue it as a degree. And so it's sort of, once again, how do you meet in the middle, right? I want to study and learn, but I also want to pursue games. I'll just put a link in the site if I can, games.usc.edu. And, we happen to be the #1 program, but there's many programs. There's programs in New York, there's programs in Pittsburgh, there's programs in Denmark, there's programs all around the world, where young people now are able to center themselves, not just in the coding of games, but in the design, in the marketing, in the sentiment around games. So, for example, I teach a class on streaming where we are all going to TwitchCon this weekend because it's all about that people like watching games more than playing them nowadays. Um, I also teach a course where every student gets a PlayStation 5 and we play games. The same way that if you want to be literate about books, you'd have to read the books. You wouldn't want just the cliff notes or just the cover. You need the games. Same thing around our art form. And it's just wonderful that you're coming into a world where now there'll be these pillars of your hard skills, like how well you test, your soft skills, how well you treat each other, and now how you engage with AI and data. Okay. And sort of your literacy around that. And sort of those three pillars are looking forward, not backwards, are to me going to be the foundation for all of you to be free to be your whole selves. Right. Um, it's super cool that you made time here. One of the things I suggest strongly is that you connect with each other, because here's a spoiler. The same people you're seeing at this young age who choose activities like this are going to be the same people you see later in life. I'll give you a concrete example. I literally just gave a talk with Teresa Lung, RSI 88, okay, who is doing a documentary about Brenda Romero, a heroine of video game creation. We've been friends now for 40 years, since summer camp, just like many of you. We happened to go to college together, but we weren't that close in college. We were like doing our majors or whatever, but we were always kind to each other. So it was really easy to return to our relationship in a meaningful way. And so once again, there's a saying, you can't make old friends. You either have them or you don't. This forum and forums like it are a great place to make old friends from now all across the world who have something in common with you, even if it's just caring enough to show up at this time of day for a talk, with some elder alums. Um, so anyway, I guess that's really all I wanted to say to you. I mean, it's just incredible. When you're older, you'll appreciate what it's like to be able to come back here like 40 years later. So I don't want to put that on you. I would just say, like, yeah, like it's really important to be kind to each other right now. You're still forming in your interests, and a lot of things you're going to do don't even exist yet, right? I think it's going to be common for both of our careers. The things that we're doing didn't exist when we were your age, but what does exist is your ability to support each other in meaningful ways around what you care about. And your willingness to lean into programs like RSI or CEE, which are tailwinds, right? Rebecca is here. You can't even see Shannon, but Shannon's here too. And they're literally tailwinds devoted to lifting you up, right? Like that's literally their focus, right? To leave you better for the time. And I just encourage you to lean into that and to lean into when you see that around you in your lives. I guess what I want to say.
Thank you so much for that, Gordon. And I think it'd be fascinating. I think maybe when we circle back towards the end, if you could walk us through the game's webpage on the USC website, I think that might
Sure.
be useful for the kids to kind of see what that interface looks like.
Sure. Well, I'll tell them a little bit about it just at a high level, and
Hmm.
I'll relinquish again. So, at a high level, um, there are two main paths. So there's more of a programmer engineer path, right? Where that is my focus. I want to be inside the code. And then there's sort of a broader design production path. I want to envision the titles. I want to produce them. I want to manage, the socials around it. And these are the two paths. Now, of course, they intersect, right? Because games are all about collaboration and making games. And so you find out that like engineers are designing, designers are now coding. I imagine some of you are probably already literate in Unity and Unreal already, right? Well, just imagine a field of unicorns, just like you. We have a program where, as far as the eye can see, everybody knows Unity. Everybody wants to design things. Everybody plays Roblox. That's what a games program is like. Kind of like when you go to math camp or science camp or any of those things. Just round games.
Beautiful. Thanks so much. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and shift gears here. Maciej, if you're ready, we'd love to hear from you and hear about all the great things that Offer and Offer GX has to offer.
All right. I would like to share a bit of a story, how I got here and how things are intertwined with gaming for me. I brought some slides with me to make some things more visual. Uh, so I started playing with computers really long time ago, like long time ago, and that was the first programs I was been writing, like having like 9 years. It was still quite a bit of fun, but there was a real lack of knowledge and nothing that you could grab, no books, nothing, and basically no friends around. So as Gordon says, I would completely back this up. It's like having friends that they have the same vibe. They would like to do things together. It's really great. So I was a little bit unhappy because I was sort of alone during that time. I switched later on to Commodore, which was faster at loading games. It had better games. So a kind of a takeaway is anything that's faster, it's better. So it's kind of a universal rule. I loved this computer to play games, but actually I started playing with code as well. Again, I got some more books and they were slightly better, but still didn't get friends that were around that wanted to create anything. So they were okay to play games, but they didn't want to create anything. So really look after yourselves, because finding people around that would like to create something together, it's really precious, actually. You know, I thought I would bring a lot of old school images. Gordon, you'll feel at home, right, with those images. I went through all of that. I think you'll also say that Windows Millennium was the worst. Anyway, I spent a lot of time during that time playing around, and actually I found a friend finally that we used to spend a lot of time basically trying to write little games. We were trying to mimic some of the big ones, trying to do the core element of the game, trying to build the experiences, trying to just have fun and just doing whatever we can. So just whatever it took us, we were trying something new over weekends and trying to build something. Obviously, it wasn't really great. However, we loved it a lot and we learned a lot. We had great fun. And actually, there's a bit of a takeaway for here. Remember to keep stuff you do. I would love to bring back the stuff I did and be able to show you, but unfortunately I can't. So actually, this is a pretty good takeaway. It's really cool to see what you've been doing in the past and then be able to come back to it and see how you're developing. And about development, that's actually something super cool. In 2002, phones came that were capable of running little applications. And actually, obviously, application a phone means a game, which is super cool. So what was called J2ME, so more micro edition of Java. And that's actually what I spent doing. I was doing game development to basically get by during my studies. And I made over 15 different games. I would need to do like one per month to get the salary. So right now you could say I was a independent developer. I didn't know that. I was just struggling to get by. Actually, it was super fun. For the record, those are not the games I did on the right. Just found a video just to show how it looked, but it was just black and white, really just 96 pixel by 48. So it was really, really low resolution, but actually it was pretty fun to the certain degree because actually you have to make a living. And long time ago, what you would do is that there was no app store. To get the games, actually the game would be published in the newspaper and you would send an SMS, which would be a premium, which would cost a lot. And then in return, you would get a game to be downloaded on your phone. And actually, this is how it worked. And this is how I made the living. But also at that point, it means that the game development is hard. And once you're doing something which seems fun, but you're doing it for a living, it becomes a little bit problematic. And that was actually, this is a fun thing. This is a project I still have on in the internet. It's already over 20 years old. And actually that was a special build system that let me create games for multiple phones at the same time, which was pretty difficult because those games were supposed to run, you would build them once and they should be running on all the phones, but that was not really true. And then there was a lot of problems and glitches, especially in Siemens devices, which is super funny because then later on I was actually hired by Siemens to work on the virtual machine, and at least that was the goal. So I thought I will make it better. But it appears that I was hired in the R&D department and I was doing some different stuff. And in the end, Siemens changed into BenQ Siemens and we closed the project and I was working on a completely different phone. Well, actually, this one was pretty nice. It also had quite a bit of fun stuff happening inside. It was a bit of an internal stuff. I was a little bit far away from doing any gaming at that point, but it was refreshing to play with some new stuff. And at some point, I basically moved to Opera Software, which was super cool to continue the little bit of digging inside the hardware, especially that Opera at that time had a slogan that the best internet experience on any device. And if you think any device, the only device that really makes sense is a gaming device. So actually, this is a Nintendo Wii, the actual video. And by the way, this is how everything looked back then. It's 240p. It's over 17-year-old video, but actually this is how Opera looked on Nintendo Wii. It has very cool controller. And this is actually what I've been working on. So even though I was still kind of far away from gaming at that point, I could still do also gaming a little bit from the different angle. So that was not really fun project. And it kept me going a little bit with the gaming in back because then I did lots of different projects, desktops, mobile for iOS, different browsers. I've been doing browsers for quite some time. I did even a messenger that later on that was created in R&D and then was later on released. We got some awards for that as well. And then in the end, quite recently, I ended up creating a gaming browser. So you may know that, you may not know that. Actually, this is a browser that's dedicated for gamers. So it's sort of a different angle. It is built with gamers in mind, which means that it's completely different. It feels nicer. It is much more tuned, I would say. It comes with some features and with some good feelings and with some good vibes. But actually, this is not what I would like to talk about because as you can see, I'm having like games on and on story all the time. So working on a gaming browser, this brings all the memories again. It makes everything much nicer because you can play and you can be much more playful. It's also something, Gordon, as you said, right? Just follow what you like, because if you're having fun, you're going to do much nicer things. And it doesn't really matter what it is. As long as something gives you fun and pleasure, you can go beyond. You will do great things because this basically excites you. And I wanted to bring one thing here. Gordon, you've been mentioning Unity, but there's more on the market. There's, for instance, GameMaker as well. That's a super cool engine that you can use to create games. And those games you can bring to any platform you want. And us as Opera, there's actually, sorry for a spoiler, but actually that's something I would like to mention is that we made, it's especially clear that we would like to lower as many barriers as possible to make game making as easy as possible. So Game Maker right now is with Opera and it's now for free. So it's completely free. You can use it wherever and however you want, and it will be always forever free, which is super cool because then the biggest barrier is done and you can just keep playing with the IDE and you can keep playing and keep building things. One thing to mention here is that those games will work on mobile devices, laptops, computers, consoles, Switch, whatever you think of. This engine lets you build everything in one go for all the platforms. That's really good because you're not confined to anything. And by the way, gaming is cool, so you can create really super cool things in there. We have some nice stuff already created with the Game Maker. There's so much more on the created by lots of people from all over the world. But again, there's something where again we can think about how to start with things. And for instance, game jams, that's something sweet. GX once Game Maker have joined, and we thought that would be the coolest thing if we have a proper offline game. So whenever your laptop is without internet, you can play built-in game. And we made a hackathon to find a best offline game. And imagine or not, but over 800 different games were created. It was super hard to find the best one, but actually we ended up after a very, very long struggle to find the best one. And we ended up with a game actually called Operius. And remember, it's a game that you're supposed to play when the internet is out. So we made it an old school, two players using the same keyboard. So this game you can play with a friend using the same keyboard at the same time on the screen. So it's actually pretty cool. It's built in. You don't need to download anything. So again, this brings me to gaming a little bit again because it's actually hard to go back. Once you have a gaming at heart, it will stay there. I wanted to mention something here as well, is that once Game Maker actually, Game Maker joined Opera, we did interview lots of developers, seasoned developers, aspiring developers, and they had one common theme that was recurring is that creating the game is the easy part. What they mention is that then later on, what's happening with the game, that's actually difficult. How do you get people to play your creations? How do you get to somehow be visible? And this is a real problem because creating thing is one stuff and then making it success that you would like it to be is another one. So trying to address that, we created a portal that's called GX Games where you can publish those games completely for free. And it's easy accessible because those games are all built with Game Maker and they're compiled to be run on the web. And the coolest part is that you can also compile the game and to be a native game on your even PS5 if you want to. However, having it on the web means that anybody can just click a link and play your game, which is really important. And now it gets even better because you can also create a mobile game and open it on mobile. And everything is for free, which is really important because you don't need to create an Apple account. You don't need to pay for any developer account. You even don't need to be 18 plus, right, to be able to do that. Otherwise, it's not possible. And you can send a link to your friends and they can play the game on mobile, all for free. So it's a whole ecosystem in here. So I'm mentioning this one because I would love to have such tools when I was a kid to have an ability to just share my creations and let people play with it. Because this is the important part. You do something and then you need to have some sort of verification. Am I the only person in the whole wide world that loves it? Or there's more? Is it bringing joy to more people? That's all about it. And this is what's included. So that's why it's super cool. I wanted to also mention one stuff that later on we also give the exposure. So some of those games are also in the GX. So actually you can get quite a bit of people playing that game. We're also trying to make it easier. So the ID is also run in web browser. So you even don't need to download anything. That's a super cool approach. But I wanted to bring actually one thing in here. Uh, Again, once during those hackathons that were announced some time ago, a couple of different games were created. And look at this. This game has over 2 million plays. 2 million. It's actually impossible to reach such numbers in real world. And in our case, someone created a game with game maker, as you can see, and that game is actually very popular, and it's popular up to the level that it's going to be also published on Steam. So this also gives an interesting path that you can start low with no investment when it comes to from the monetary point of view, and then keep building, seeing if something is really nice, if people like it, if there is something and it also brings you joy building, and you can actually go much further. So this is I want to just show and let's say share a bit of a story. So I'm not really involved directly in game development. Nevertheless, I'm still somehow close enough because it's super exciting. It's a lot of positive energy in there. And I wish you all the best. And I wish you could also try to get as many fun gameplays as possible. Thank you, guys. I think we'll be getting some questions, I suppose.
Oh,
So
well,
we're
you
gonna
got a
have to
question
answer
from me,
those.
which is, oh my God, you're game maker? Oh, that's so
Yes.
cool. All right, so we need to talk offline. I mean, we love you children, but yeah, we need to do like a mega jam. Like, so I used to run the IGDA. We could do like something, bespoke, right?
With pleasure. We've been doing those quite a bit. But yes, well, let's take it offline. I would love
And, and this is Ducati, by the way. This is one of my students at USC. I was talking about the games program. This is the games program, an engineer. He is from Turkey. Where's everyone in the chat from? I actually am curious where everyone is. Is that too private? Or you say like East Coast, West Coast? What continent you're in?
No, absolutely. If anybody is interested, don't be shy. The chat's open. You should be able to type
I'm
to
like a
anybody.
professor. I will call on you. I'll be like, El Haji, Ewan, Dan, Adrian, answer us.
I know. I see some of my mentorship students
Oh,
in
very
in
cool.
there too. So, side eye if you want to
So
share.
these are students who are like junior high, high school who just aspire for more. So they came to hear like a talk about games and like how they can pursue like in school or in their lives in interesting ways.
Beautiful.
But
I see somebody said chat's still disabled.
oh, I
My
saw.
bad.
Wait, what? Oh,
Someone
well, I
said
see it.
chat's still disabled for them. So hold on, let me fix it.
Okay.
FYI, guys, Zoom has been having some trouble for me today.
Hey from
Let's
San.
see.
Hey from San Francisco. But there's already a question for you. I don't know if you see like from Aaron. There's a question that's for you in the
Yes.
Q&A.
How do you feel seeing any games now that may have had elements that you engineered? Do you often see your work used build up on new things? Well, that's the cool part about gaming. It's so big, you can spend also your time building things that other will use to build more creations. If you're doing game, doesn't mean that you need to be coding. You can be doing story, you can be level building, you can be doing music and different things. It's like a whole thing. It's like Gordon said, it's not a single player, it's not a single person thing. While it is possible, yes, and we have some nice stories that single person can deliver something, the reality is it's never like that. So the soft skills also, like the communication, is extremely important. Is if you don't have the same vibe, if you don't know how to communicate, if the best persons together in the room will not produce anything. And in the end, if there's nothing to play, it's a failed project, right? So there's a lot of other stuff that it's really important, meaning that, and again, maybe coming back to the thing, yes, we enjoy building things that later on are reused. It's like you're creating something and it starts living on, changing, modifying. By the way, fun fact, a popular thing of those match-3 games like a Candy Crush Saga alike. I've been doing those in 2002 as well, and they were not new but back then either, which
Yeah.
means that a lot of those things is remixing and just building one thing over the other one. So it's a natural thing. I once heard that in it's like arts class that everything is a remix, and I think that's really true.
Yeah, we also had a question come into the chat, and I think this can go for both you, Gordon, and you, Maciej. For gaming, educational purpose might be the ultimate reward. Do we have any games that really teach you how to live better, work better, invest better? So financial literacy, time, money, date better, eat, travel better. Are there any games out there that can answer those
They're
lifelong
social,
questions?
they're social good. Well, rather than say answer them, hopefully they can be additive, right? Like I think there's a difference between I'd say between a transaction and a relationship, right? Like ultimately you want to have agency over whatever you think better is, but it's great to have, advice, guidance, exercises where you can sort of live it while you're not living it. So I'd argue The Sims is always where I start. The Sims is a great place for exploring human interaction in a way where it's not you, it's the character, but you're able to have characters that are designed to engage down paths, professional, personal, entertainment, blah, 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 blah. So I know for a fact I made me and my husband in The Sims too, and literally made our house, made everything. And it really helped me understand him better. Here's why. I'm like this. I'm like, hi, hi. He is not. He likes art on the wall. He likes things put away. And seeing the things that made him go plus plus be as exciting as I was when someone came to the door helped me go, oh, this is what's making him happy as a person. It's possible to find happiness in different ways, not just my way, right? Let me sort of value and celebrate that versus being like, why don't you find happiness the way that I find happiness, right? Like, oh, this is your happiness. These can coexist, right? Um, I think that that is so important. I put a link in the chat for Games for Change. So Games for Change is actually this ongoing year-round ecosystem, including programs for junior high and high school children, students around making games to have positive social impact, like, right, to leave people better. We're right now at a jam, an AI jam, literally called Good Vibes Only, literally around trying to leave people better, with the applications. And I'll give you an example that's maybe relatable. The Olympics are coming to LA. And so one young lady wanted to make an app, which is where do you place the trash cans to be most efficient? Right? Because everyone's coming in, you don't want to have the place be trashed, right? So how do you use AI to decide what the best locations are for people who have trash cans? So I think sometimes people are thinking about problems big and small, and play or interaction is the tableau rather than like telling you what to do, right? Letting you sort of play with it so that you can engage in a different way around your problems, like you're asking. That's my answer.
Beautiful. Thank you. Maciej, do you have any additions to that?
Yeah. No, that was great.
Perfect.
Also, no, one more thing. I would suggest context engineering. So all of you today, wait, can they wait? If you're over the age of some age, you can go on like Claude.ai or Lovable, and you can start vibe coding like right now, like literally 0 seconds from now, right? You can start context engineering and thinking about um having apps and websites around the challenges that you think are important. Now, the thing is this, I don't want you to skip learning how to actually code, okay? Because what you don't want to be is like illiterate. And by that, I mean, if someone reads you all your bedtime stories and you never take the book, you'll hear all the stories, but never learn to read, right? Yeah. And you'll never be able to read without that person in the room. Well, same thing with AI, right? That's like something that'll read you a bedtime story, but you need to still be literate, okay? And you need to learn to read so that you can enjoy stories, but also read and write and compose stories and be literate. Same thing.
This is a great segue into some questions that I had been thinking of in myself because vibe coding has been like a huge thing in the news lately. It's everybody's talking about it. And then we talk about how in gaming and in development, collaboration is key. So you're always building on, all art is derivative. You're always building on an idea that somebody else had or a framework that somebody else built out, and you're kind of building those ideas and putting them together to make something awesome, right? But how does how does that impact like the issues of like intellectual property? So, what your idea versus what somebody else's idea and that sort of thing.
Well, I want to sort of build on something that you were saying. Like, I think that like the challenge of discovery on your platform, any game, okay, that you create, if you think of it as an intellectual property, it's not just the game, okay? It's the distribution of the game, it's the monetization of the game, it's the sentiment around the game, all of which are part of the intellectual property, right? Which is why, unfortunately, sometimes games get something called cloned, where someone just goes, "Oh, I love that idea. Let me copy it, but I'm going to distribute it differently. I'm going to monetize it differently, and I've got a bunch of fans, right?" And so, ta-da! I'm the game now, right? And and so I think as young people, if you could be thinking about that from the start, right? That a game doesn't just exist yourself. It means to be played, it means to be shared, it means to be cared about. And how are you part of that? That's going to be what intellectual property is looking forward, not backwards.
It's almost like, we have the STEM side of the coding, but then you also have to remember that code itself is a form of artistry, right? Like you have to be willing to give it out to the world to better everybody's experience, right?
Well, just also now, if you think about if I drew something with chalk on the sidewalk, it's beautiful, okay? But there's no stopping someone from walking by with their cell phone and going, bink, taking a picture of my art. And there's no stopping someone from like, oh, I saw this. I'm going to make something inspired by it, right? Like that's part of the world that we live in now. And so if you're really trying to think about, I'm trying to own something, right? Well, then that means I'm trying to monetize it. And that is really more about distribution, monetization, and sentiment than it is per se about the original work.
And Maciej, in your experience with, especially with Game Maker, has there been any, influx of like new developers or, new novices coming in with the aid of AI and vibe coding?
Yeah, it's again, this is something we like because this lowers the entry level, right? Which means that from zero to doing something, it helps you to go further, quicker, try out things. It speeds things up. But as Gordon said, this is actually, a very nice analogy with the listen to the book. Uh, you cannot skip on the hard stuff because in the end you later on judge what is done by the AI, and unless you know what is good or what is not good, it's not going to be useful. And if you would like to have something memorable, you need to have something really good, and the average outcome would be just average, so it will not really stick out of the crowd, right? So if you would like to create something great, you need to put some effort in this. And it doesn't really matter what kind of tools you use. it needs to be effort. You cannot end up with just one prompt. Just create me a great Pac-Man, I don't know, remaster version, right? It will not work. This is not the way it should be. It's just how I see is that we get more in shorter time and we can get much more tangible and nicer results. But it doesn't mean it's the end game. It's just basically getting us faster and quicker to that point. Just one thing adding here, back in my time when I was doing things a long time ago in DOS, it'll be difficult to get any graphics, music, sounds, or anything. Right now, I could just, with a few prompts, just get those and get going. It doesn't mean it's great, but I already have material to work with, and it just helps. Sometimes, when you're creating a game, I did, I was spending some time on this, right? So you need to know that you need to be with the creation for some time. You need to be inside, right? You need to feel the sounds, the music. It all needs to fit because you're creating an experience, not just few pixels on a screen. And that very often means that it needs to look good. If you keep looking at something bad on a screen, your imagination can take you from one point to another one, but actually this looks bad on a screen. It really slows you down. Actually, it kind of kills the mood. And if you can generate, even if it's still the best, but it can generate something good, looking good, you make a noir game and you have that feeling on a screen. It gets you going because you see, oh, okay, I can be better. I almost feel it. But you don't have it, it's like, okay, just a few pixels on the screen, and it's hard to be really excited about this one.
I actually have another metaphor from when I was a young kid, which was times tables. Okay. So I was
Mhm.
very good at memorizing times tables, but that's different than learning how to multiply. And so what happens is if you're very good at multiplying but learning the tables, there's a certain amount in your mind. Like you can just go out as far, and all of you know at home how far you can just sort of go, or learning the digits of pi, right? You just know
Mhm.
how far you can go, but it's so different than understanding what
Mhm.
pi is. Okay. And so it's impressive to like a certain limit, right? But it is quickly exposed if you cannot actually multiply. For most people, it's around 14 times 14. And they're like, and they get stuck, right? Okay. Because they can't multiply. And you're like, oh, well, it's the same thing with creation a little bit, right? There is
Yes.
merit to learning how to multiply and to doing the work and learning to carry the numbers and learning to having that process that is repeatable and then scalable to do impactful things, right? Not just
Correct.
quick, I've got the answer, right? I think there's a lot of that's sort of what I was talking about a little bit. There can be a challenge between trying to be correct so as to get the best score versus understanding what you're talking about, what you are learning. And that's
Mhm.
especially important with AI because, as some of you know, AI will hallucinate sometimes. Okay. It'll just put out stuff that looks reasonable. But if you don't understand, you won't know. You'll just be, you know, you know what I mean? You won't even know. Like, and it's like if multiplication is a great metaphor, right? Like if you don't know how to multiply, then you don't know when someone's wrong. It's nothing personal. You just don't know, right? You just know
Yes.
the chart you memorized.
Yeah, it's a very good analogy. Yeah, it's a little bit. It feels easy that just type something and you get the results, but it won't you get that far, right?
That brings me to another thought about so we talk about how collaboration is key, and even having sometimes you might think of coding and developing as like an isolated event, but then you have things like hackathon, and you have events where you come together in a room and you're all working on separate but separate projects but together.
Mhm.
So that collaboration piece is key. um do you have any advice or tips that you have for the kids about giving and receiving feedback? So what does that look like for them, that feedback piece, because it's important.
I was I have strong feelings about this, but I mean the number one rule, real talk, is be nice. Okay. Like I remember one of the curses of my childhood was I wanted to be right, not be nice, right? And that was the most important thing. But I assure you, in the long run, being kind, leading with kindness will serve you, okay? Because everyone needs help at some point, including you, okay? And so something that I do for feedback is something called I like, I wish, what if, okay? That means if someone shows you something, their piece of art, their game, their bicycle, whatever, you just go, I like, tell them something you like about it, right? And then tell them something you wish, if there's something you wish was a little different, and then go sort of what if, like propose a road forward. And what that does is it keeps people from being on their heels, right? Like an example would be if someone plays, well, they don't know what a radio is. If something plays something on Spotify that you don't like, right? You could just be like, this is terrible. Wow. Right? You're the worst. Can't stand. Why are you even listening? Ooh, what are you made of? Gross. Right? Or you could be like, I like the volume that you chose. I wish we could hear a different genre of music at the same volume. What if we played every other song together? You play one, then I play one. Right? That's an example.
I
Very
think I would add
accurate to
to
the way you
this
talk. Go ahead,
that
Maciej.
the good thing is just to also try things out, because it's easy to I would say hype make a hypothesis when you're not, let's say, under stress or trying to deliver something. When you're getting tired, the bad parts of you come out, right? And so, for instance, I would encourage trying to, for instance, do some sort of hackathons to really try things out and see how you also cope, how to have the good group of people working together, whether you, let's say, are whether you can communicate efficiently, and even to see your own limits. So you may say, hey, I'm great, I can be doing this all alone, but the truth is, no, you can't. At some point, you also start making mistakes, and the question is also to see how you would behave and whether you can understand yourself too. So to put sort of debug yourself as well. And I think the more you keep doing those things, the more experience you have, the easier it is also to come up your shortcomings as well, meaning that we all do, and it's sort of sometimes difficult to even acknowledge those. But in the end, things are not done by a single person.
Oh, this is like a tough question. I see a tough question about expectations and PhDs in math. Um, so I think everyone could read the question. I This is a great question. Like I said, so I know a little bit about this one because, like I said, my father a lawyer, my brother a lawyer, and I'm named after the law school professor. There's all the expectations, ugh, right? And I think that um, it's important at every stage, not just your PhD stage, that your joy coexists with your achievement. Okay, right? That these can need to coexist, right? Now they're both important, like, stay in school, do your homework, all that good stuff. Great, I get it. But also your joy, right? That which you like. Um, because you don't want to get a doctorate in someone else's life. Okay. Ultimately, you're going to want something that for you has meaning, whatever that may be. And part of even being available to that is pursuing the things that bring you joy when you're younger. You might decide you like architecture, or you might like a craft that doesn't exist yet, right? You might be the intersection of you might get a PhD in game maker by the time you're in school and get one, right? There's all sorts of things that you might pursue at a high level that will possibly also align with your values, right? And that's the world that you want to create, for others, who can sort of model your behavior. You're welcome.
I'm gonna shift over to this question from Awen. First of all, shout out to the name. Love that. So Awen asks, back in the day, it seems like there was less competition for games or projects to be made. Nowadays, how can you stand out from all the games that are out there?
You want to take this? I mean, I,
Yeah, yeah. So okay. So because mm, yes, of course, you may look how many games there are on Steam and how many things there are actually as a and you can consider as a competition, but then you will still find a lot of games that seem to be simple or a little bit refreshing or completely new. Is that creativity is perfect. So having lots of clones will not actually help. Having a pure passion and being really authentic helps because you follow something and this may be whatever, and I really love how it is that you can be a very niche thing and still be completely successful. So the question is obviously if you're going for AAA title like success, or basically you would like to have people enjoy your game. You can make black and white story driven game and it'll also be successful because right now the whole wide world is your audience. It can be anybody, wherever they are, which is super cool. And I know it may sound very depressing if you would like to compete with everything on Steam. Even in GX Games, we have already over 10,000 different creations. So that's a lot, right? But still, there are games that are getting 2 million gameplays because they are standing out. It's not yet another copy of a game. It's actually some idea taken and created and refactored and perfected with community. And this is how you do it. You pursue what you really want to. If you like to just engineer it out, it will not work. If you like to engineering out, you'll be doing just a Candy Crush Saga copy paste with a different kind of candies. This is what you would end up with, right? You'll do analytical approach of seeing what's the landscape, what's the popular game right now, what's the genre, and try to hammer it out. This is not the way to go when you would like to really create something cool. And for those cool things, there's always a place. There will always be a place because even if you take AI will not generate anything new. It will just a remix.
yeah. I was just to build on that. Um, there's a difference between games being something that you do and someone that you are. Okay. So I can meet, we've just met, but I know for him it's something that he is. He told you his early story, he's alone, went in the code, always is who he is. And the reason why that's different is because part of standing out is having a sense and thoughtfulness for other people experiencing what you make, right? Not just the authorship, like, look what I made, but like, oh, I'm so genuinely excited for other people to enjoy, share, watch, care, be moved by my creation. And that doesn't happen for most people on their first game or their second game or their third game. Usually they're making games, like just, learning the craft. But at a certain point, when it's who you are, you start thinking almost immediately about sharing it, right? And that is sort of a light switch that flicks for people where I go, oh, sharing this game to be played is as important as making it. Oh, I need to start to test it while it's in progress because I care about how people feel when they play it. I want to know if it's creating the feelings that I hope people are having. Oh, and that is when you begin to stand out because you're like, oh, what is standing out? It's having a community of people who care about my game when I'm not in the room, right? I'm not there. They care about it. They love it. They're playing. They're doing whatever they do. And that's like a real mindset change that is hard to start with because you just want to make games, right? I want to make games, and that's great. But standing out is a little something different than authoring games, which is important. You must be able to author a game and finish stuff and work with others, blah, blah. But that's different than commercial or social success for a game, right? There's a lot of people can make games now. There's a ton, right? So inside that universe, it's those people who connect with others through their art form or through their personality or through whatever that are now starting to stand out. Peak is a great example. I think kids can play Peak, right? Yeah, Peak, right? Where like developers from across continents went and did a game jam together, right? They were just vibing, right? And then they went home and Peak, right? Which naturally just sort of stands out, but it's not natural. They really were thinking about other people from the very beginning. It's sort of like baked into it, into the it's in the batter, of the game that it's made to be shared and played with other people across the world. And we just get to experience it and go, God, this is not just about mountain climbing. I can't put my finger on it, but I want to play it with you, right? And so that's something that, as young people, you have the time. In fact, you could probably start with people in this chat. Are they like in a group? Are they like how are they connected to each other?
They're not connected yet, but I've been thinking about doing some Discordy stuff in the future.
Okay, well,
So just
whatever's appropriate
wink.
with your friends at home, whoever friends are in your proximity, right? To just start thinking about like, hey, I'm trying to make a game for us, not just for me. What does that mean, right? And are you able to sort of like flip that switch and be like, oh, I made a game for us. That's what I'm trying to do I'm trying to stand out, like same thing to me.
And as a counterpoint too, I was thinking also that, it doesn't have to be universally loved. You could have your
Hmm.
niche group. I was thinking about, I think we kind of alluded to some comparison to like Hollow Knight, which, when it first was released in beta, people were the old term back in my day was they were flaming them. They were torching them in the comments, and then it became the biggest game like later on. So, it doesn't have to be universally liked immediately. It later can build and get that notoriety. It has to be genuine and human where it comes from, right? It has to come from the soul.
And then you work on another game for 8 years. Come
Yeah.
back again. It'd be great. It'd be amazing.
And
It's
it's
so
gonna be
fun.
awesome.
Yeah.
Let's see. Okay,
And,
so
and and it's evolving too, by the way. The things that you young people like aren't gonna be the stuff that we like. That's what's so cool about the art form. You're gonna like new things that are just true to you, and you get to lean into and you get to enjoy what you create.
yeah, it's gonna be awesome. So I think this is a great question for the both of you, just because we could talk about kind of that indie space versus that, more commercial space of game development. So what does the game making process look like? And is it different between, if you're with, a Tencent or if
Huh.
you're making independently, like on Game Maker? So what does the game process look like?
I'll let you go. Yes. You go.
Yeah, I think we could have a whole set of episodes about this, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think, well, how to put it? It's going to be chaotic for sure,
Sure.
because there's no one's. It's not like a project that you take from from A to Z in a strict line, because it's not creative. Then this is how you can do your taxes. But if you're going to create something, you will have a lot of hopes. You will start something, you will feel it's okay, you will change it, you will go back and forth. Actually, when you're doing something independently, it's easier. I would imagine that it's so much more difficult if you're actually working on AAA title, which has a budget, deadline, timeline. There are some strict points in the production, and it's much more difficult because there's so much more money on the line. So this is confined creativity under lots of pressure. So it cannot be too spontaneous in that situation, because it may simply flop at the end, right? So I know, Gordon, you're gonna have different insights, but
Oh, I
the
try to
stuff
make it for young people.
the stuff is that it's probably pretty chaotic all the time. You try to tame it, you try to put some order into this, but it cannot be totally under order, because you will not be happy with the results.
Yeah, I would say what the grades are like 8 to 12. That's what grade we're in. Okay, so to me, as I think of this is a real-time life metaphor, it's like when you go to school. Okay, you can bring your own lunch, or you can eat the lunch that the cafeteria provides you. Okay, I'd argue that like independent development is kind of like you get to bring your own lunch. Okay, you have what you have in the house. You can decide what fits in the bag. You might make the sandwich, you might cut diagonal, you get what is available, but you decide what's in the bag, you bring it to school. Okay. Now, when you go to school and people buy lunch, well, they might have more money. They can go to the vending machine and buy 10 candy bars and whatever, but they don't get to pick the menu. Okay. Like ultimately, the decisions are made by like the school board or the principal or someone else of what is actually going to be made. And you might get to order things, but you don't get to decide like you do when you bring your own lunch. Now, sometimes you're like, oh, but I love pizza and they make pizza. And that's true. You could have pizza, right? And sometimes you're like, oh, I don't want my homemade pizza. I want the school pizza. So good, extra pepperoni. Also true. But it's not your pizza. Okay. You're going to get what you get. And then you won't be able to make changes in the menu tomorrow, the same we are when independent game, where ultimately it's up to you what goes in the bag each and every day, right? If you forget your lunch, you forgot your lunch, right? And that is a different feeling. Okay. Both are valid, but there's different decision makers about what you get to eat that day. And it's up to you to decide whether, like, I want to decide what I eat today, or I want someone else to decide what I eat today.
No, I think that's an awesome analogy. So, kind of talking about that, agency, how
Yeah.
much agency you want to have in that spectrum of, do I want to give up a little bit of my agency so that I have a little bit more capital to work with, or do I want to grassroots
Or a
and
little
have
less. They might tell you there's no lunch today. That also happens in our
that
industry
might happen
sometimes.
sometimes.
And you might be like, I thought there'd be lunch.
The funding
I'm
falls
like, you
through.
should have made your own lunch, so to
Oh,
speak.
so thank you both for joining us for this talk. I'm going to move us into the closing statements, just your thank you. So first, thank you both for
Oh,
joining us
wow.
today. It was fabulous.
Are these
It's
our sponsors? What's going
yes.
on? This is awesome.
So we'd like to thank our sponsors, especially the Cloudmore Charitable Foundation. Through them, we are able to keep this programming cost-free. We are able to provide 1 to 2 webinars per month for everyone, plus our lab bench opportunities, a summer science guide, our mentorship program. So all of the bells and whistles that we have for our program are through our sponsors. So thank you so much to them.